Let's get right to our top story. The federal government versus Apple. A federal judge is now ordering Apple to help the FBI crack into the iPhone owned by Syed Farook, one of the two shooters in December's San Bernardino terrorist attack that killed 14 innocent people. But Apple is hitting back, saying it will not comply with the court order. The FBI has laced into Apple in recent months for creating virtually unbreakable security features on its phones.
It is a big problem for law enforcement armed with a search warrant when you find a device that can't be opened even though the judge said there's probable cause to open it. As I said, it affects our counterterrorism work. At San Bernardino, a very important investigation to us. We still have one of those killer's phones that we have not been able to open. Right? It's been over 2 months now. We're still working on it.
But despite that, Apple chief executive Tim Cook has fiercely defended the security protections on Apple's devices.
On your smartphone today, on your iPhone, there's likely health information, there's financial information, there are intimate conversations with your family or your coworkers, there's probably business secrets, and you should have the ability to protect it. And the only way we know how to do that is to encrypt it. Why is that? It's because if there's a way to get in, then somebody will find a way in. I don't believe that the trade-off here is privacy versus national security. I think that's an overly simplistic view. We're America. We should have both.
And the brawl between the feds and Apple is entering the 2016 presidential campaign. Donald Trump weighed in on the controversy today.
I agree 100% with the courts. We should, in that case, we should open it up. These are two people radicalized who were given a wedding party by the people that they killed. There's something going on. We have to be very careful. We have to be very vigilant. But to think that Apple won't allow us to get into her cell phone, who do they think they are?
Joining us now to analyze, privacy and security attorney Scott Vernick, along with Philip Segal, an investigative attorney. Now, I have one pro-Apple, one pro-FBI. Let me start with you, Scott. You're on the Tim Cook side that says Apple should keep this backdoor, this encrypting backdoor closed, right?
Absolutely. I mean, let's be real here. What is the court saying? The court saying is that it's ordering Apple to create a software that it doesn't yet have to break into this phone. This is a binary proposition. Either you're going to have encryption and it's going to protect us against everybody, or we're going to put in a backdoor, create a weakness, which isn't only going to be available to the good guys, but also to the bad guys as well. That's a radical step here.
Now, Phil, everyone wants security. Everyone is concerned about terrorism, but a lot of people say that once you give that backdoor, once you provide the software for a backdoor, the bad guys could get the key to that backdoor too.
That's right, and they do say that, but up until Apple only had this encryption for the last year. In 2012, 2013, 2014, the bad guys, there were breaches, but you're talking about having to have a balance. And to go back to one point,
wait, hold on, but is there a balance? It's either there is the software or there isn't. Whereas I don't see where there's a balance.
The government has the right to go into your ISP and get your email. The government has the right to go to the hospital and get your medical records. The government already has these rights, and these rights are limited by the courts. And no one is saying that the government will have the right to look at everybody's iPhone, to go into your house, grab your iPhone, and use this backdoor.
Not yet, though, not yet. What about it, Scott? I already heard the New York chief of police already saying, hey, we may want to use some of this backdoor window to look into some other types of crimes, murder, rape, etc.
You see, therein lies the rub, right? It's a slippery slope. Once you create this software that will enable law enforcement or Homeland Security to get past the passwords and look at the encrypted data, then everybody's going to want a piece at it. And that's why this doesn't work. I say, and here's the other thing, here's the other sort of total misnomer here, all right? If you do this, it's not as if the bad guys, whoever they are, the terrorists, state actors, aren't going to find some other kind of encrypted technology. They certainly will. That's why we not ought to create this weakness. You just can't create it for one set of people who we like and not have it for another set of people.
Yeah, and what about that? There's so much information. Honestly, we keep everything on our smartphones, our medical records, our financial records.
The government already has
Can I throw you one more? Records. Can I throw you one more? Allegedly, with this backdoor encryption, with being able to break into the encryption, there may be an opportunity for people, good or bad, to get into your camera and your microphone on your phone.
You cannot say to me, first of all, that Apple doesn't know how to crack these phones. I just don't believe it, number one. Number two, up until last year, we're talking about the capacity to erase all the data on your phone if you enter 10 erroneous passwords. Up to last year, the iPhone didn't have that feature, and no one was talking about bad guys stealing everybody's information.
But they're not stealing it. They're not getting their hands on it under that. If you whatever the number is, 10 or 20 attempts, it wipes out the information. They're not getting it, and that kind of is the point, right?
That's the point if you oppose any kind of government forcing Apple to hand over this information. I think what Apple could do is get this iPhone, crack it, hand over the information of this one iPhone, and that's the end of it. But the idea that either everyone's information is going to be for a free-for-all government to grab...
Scott, this is not a bad idea, though. Let's say they do crack the encryption, whatever they have on the iPhone, and get this information for the feds. They can develop software, a different type of encryption that wouldn't be able to be broken, right?
Listen, I don't know that they can do that. Apple deliberately created a system of encryption where they didn't hold the key themselves. And the fundamental question here is this: how much government intrusion are you prepared to ask for? And how much government intrusion are you prepared to tolerate? It might make sense with respect to food safety or medical devices or pharmaceuticals or with respect to utilities. But here we're talking about your phone. And as you point out, people have a tremendous amount of personal stuff on that phone. Health data, financial information, who they're dating, who they're seeing.
The government already has access to all your tax records.
That makes my point.
If you want single-payer health care, the government's going to have all your medical records anyway.
Phil makes my point. The fact of the matter is that without this, the government already has access to so much data. The question is, do they really need access to more?
Now, everyone wants this crime solved. Everyone wants the trail that these two murderers in San Bernardino took prior to, and see if we can open up some.
It's not about
doors.
solving the crime.
No,
it's
I know that. So there is. Well, this one is.
Crime from happening.
This one is. This issue is about getting Farouk's cell phone so we can find out if he has any trail to other terrorists.
That's
I
right.
get that, but aren't we? So you solve a crime, or you thwart one terror attack. Do you really want to open literally the rest of the population up to possible terror? ISIS getting hold of all of our information.
It already is a possibility that ISIS can get that, because unless you're only using a phone, there are lots of other ways that ISIS can find information. There are lots of, if you're using a computer in an internet cafe, it's not as if everyone in the world who's a bad actor is only using an iPhone. And by the way,
Scott, I got to ask you this. Do you really want, if that information is sitting right there for the feds to have in that device, do you really want it inaccessible to the feds? Solve a crime, solve a terror attack.
I say yes. And the reason why I say yes is because I think that you can work around, that the government, Homeland Security, FBI, whoever it is, can work around that encryption issue. They can look at metadata. They can look at other sources of information they have. To me, standing firm and not allowing government intrusion into personal data is a thing that we ought to do very carefully.
Big topic, you guys, and I guess it's not going away anytime soon. Scott and Philip, thank you very much. Next on the rundown.